Hey guys, it's Julie Malillo. I'm a life coach here in Manhattan. My website is yourdreamslifecoach.com. Today I'm answering the question how to spot ENFPs. It's a really good question. And I'm going to give you some in general advice here. This is just my opinion as an ENFP. You also have to remember that ENFPs are different and that ENFPs can have personality disorders just like all the other types can. I have some other videos on that. Narcissism's a big one these days. So those personality disorders are going to color someone's personality and make their vibe different. So keep that in mind. In my opinion, the easiest way to start spotting a type is to just sort of practice doing it, and over time, you'll get better at picking up on the energy that different types are giving you, the way that people the way that people structure what they're saying, facial expression. It really is more about how that person thinks than how they act. Because like I said, you can have all these different factors. You can have if are they shy, are they outgoing, how they were raised, lots of different things. But in general, ENFPs, not the loudest of the extroverts. So if they're with a group or something, they might not necessarily be this really loud party person. That said, they might be. It just depends how comfortable they feel with that group. Like for me, if I feel that a group already has a very dominant leader who is doing things in a way that they want to do it, I'm not gonna want to be a buzzkill and ruin what they're doing. So I'll kind of step back and be like, okay, you do your thing. But if I'm in a situation where really just anything goes and no one really cares, then I probably will start talking to everyone. I'm just thinking like last night I was out with a group of people. I knew like a couple of them. I didn't know the other ones. And I really was like talking to everybody individually, and also I was getting people together like as a group and sort of asking questions of them about different topics because I like to get people comfortable. So like if there's not like a good group dynamic, and this is just talking about me, not all ENFPs do the same thing. I'll try to get like maybe like three other people and be like, hey, what do you guys think about this? What do you think about that? And then I kind of just like listen to everyone's opinion. And that way, those people then feel more comfortable interacting with each other because they've kind of already been talking. And then if I walk away, they can kind of keep talking and it's not weird. What else do we do? So, yeah, the stereotype is that ENFPs are like super outgoing, but a lot of ENFPs actually don't know if they're introverts because we can be in our heads a lot from the extroverted intuition, which is not a very like outgoing function. So, now because we have introverted feeling, ENFPs like in general, again, I can only speak in general, but then again, you might meet an ENFP who's like a sociopath or a narcissist, and then, they're going to have lots of traits from that. They're still going to be an ENFP, but, they might not necessarily be a nice person, empathetic, caring. They might be very cold and mean. So, you have to take everything I say with a grain of salt. But in general, like a healthy ENFP is going to care about other people. So if someone comes up to an ENFP and is like, oh no, I'm upset about something, usually that ENFP is going to be like, oh no, what happened? What is it? Like we're usually going to really care what happened, and we're going to be patient usually to hear about the whole thing in depth. Like we want to know like what went down and why and all that kind of thing. So we really do care about people's feelings a lot in general. Like we want people to be like happy and having a good time, and we don't really see it as like a waste of our time if somebody has something they're going through and they want to talk about it for a bit. especially if they're a good friend. But I mean, even if they're a stranger, like we usually will like listen to people and try to help them out, just because we have an introverted feeling and like we do care. Um, and I would say probably the easiest way to spot an ENFP is to look for the new ideas. Because if you're talking to them, they're going to easily say any extroverted intuition type stuff. They might throw out some funny possibilities or ideas, or it could be serious. But you're just going to get a lot of ideas flying around. Now, that's not going to tell you if they're an ENFP or an ENTP because they could be a thinker, right? But that's going to become apparent pretty fast because ENFPs, we're not good at introverted thinking. And so that really distinguishes us from ENTPs that have introverted thinking as a strength. I don't know how you could really test that out unless you give us like a math problem or something, which I hate math problems. I just scratched my thumb and I like didn't have a band-aid, so I wrapped tape around it. Speaking of any, so anyway, that's why I have this big weird white thing on my thumb. Okay, so this is why I need, ISTPs to help me out because this is how I solve problems. I'm like, I don't know what to put on my thumb. I just put tape on it because I don't have any band-aids. What else? What else? Okay, so just like the stereotypical stuff, a lot of ENFPs are in the arts. I love the arts too. Doesn't mean every ENFP is in the arts, but a lot of us are. Like things like acting, dancing, writing, psychology, people stuff, feeling stuff. There are going to be a lot of ENFPs. Like if you take an acting class or something, there's probably going to be a lot of ENFPs there. But weirdly enough, when I took an acting class in New York, this was like years ago, in my class, it was strangely enough mostly introverts. It was mostly like INFPs and INTPs and like types I wouldn't have expected. There were definitely like a few like ENFP guys actually in the class, but it wasn't as many ENFPs as I would have thought. So that's the thing. Types are everywhere. Like in the grocery store, everyone has a type, so there are going to be ENFPs there. So I would say, like, as far as advice for finding an ENFP, because this is kind of the problem, like, if you go somewhere with ENFPs, there are probably going to be ENFJs there too, because ENFJs also love the arts, and that's a common problem to confuse your best and worst type. Like last night when I was out with this group, I was standing next to this ENFJ girl the whole night, and like, on the surface, I don't think you could probably tell that we weren't, you couldn't really tell us apart, ENFJ, ENFP, aside from the fact that she is more expressive than me. Like she's much more likely to be like, whoa, and like do some like really crazy dance moves. Now I dance a lot and some of my dancing is a little bit out there, but I'm in general, I would say a lot quieter than an ENFJ in terms of my like woohoo yelling. So that's one way to tell. But I'd say the easiest thing to do is just talk to a lot of people. Because if you talk to somebody, you're going to start to like notice. And the easiest way to, if you just don't know that much about like socionics or personality types and you want to know if someone's like your best type, the number one thing that I do is I notice just how comfortable I feel with them. Because as an ENFP, if I'm being totally myself, with all of those other 15 types, I'm going to get a little bit of negative reaction from really all of them, except for ISTPs, weirdly enough. So even like another ENFP, even though we see things the same way, sometimes we don't like to see our qualities in other people. And so we can get just a tinge of, oh yeah, I hate organizing things too. Maybe you should like get a folder or something, like there's some kind of discomfort there. And then going through all the other types, like even our compatible types. Like we're still going to get some type of like, oh, why are you doing it that way? Or why do you see it that way? Right? There's like that tiny bit of criticism, even if they're trying to be nice. Like an ESFJ might be being very nice and like, oh, that's so nice you're doing that. Oh, wow, you're just trying so many new things. It's just so many things. And it's not really a criticism, but you can tell it's not exactly compatible. It's like some discomfort that they're feeling by being around an ENFP, basically. And ISTPs don't have any discomfort being around ENFPs and vice versa. So they're not going to like criticize what we're saying or doing the way that other types would. Oh no, my computer's making this noise again. Okay, see, that's how you know I'm not. Because a lot of people, when they don't know me, they think that I'm like a logical type, and I'm just like, no. I don't know why my computer's making this noise. I think it's my Evernote software. It keeps like having bugs or something. Okay, anyway, so last night, one of the people in the circle was an ISTP, and I could tell really quickly because as I'm saying my like out there stuff that I like to say, he wasn't really reacting to any of it in a negative way. He was just like totally neutral, totally like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then like, what about this? And then what about that? Whereas another type might be like, oh, that's nice, but what about this other thing? Or, so noticing if you feel judged is an easy way to know how compatible you are with that person. Even if they're small little judgments, if you get really good at picking up on those, that can help. Disclaimer though, because people that have narcissism are extremely judgmental of other people. So they might be your best type, but they might be a narcissist, in which case you can like see my other videos on narcissism because that is a totally separate thing. And of like the ENFP narcissists that I've known, also being an ENFP, I would say they're a lot louder than me. There's different kinds of narcissists, of course. I'm not going to get into all the different kinds, but most narcissists are kind of loud, obnoxious. Like, yes, they're charming initially. They're more likely to almost like shout versus talk. Sometimes I see YouTube videos like that, and someone's just like shouting, yeah, I'm on YouTube. And it's just like, why are you hurting my ears like this? Like, anyway, not saying every shouter is an ENFP, but probably is a narcissist ENFP, but probably a lot of them are. And then you get the sulking, quiet type of narcissist. If that's an ENFP, they might like think they're an INFP and they'll just kind of sulk. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. Like that's more like the sulking kind of narcissist. I mean, I can't like explain all of it in one video, but yeah. So narcissistic ENFPs are definitely a lot louder, and they just need a lot more attention. But yeah, it's really hard for me to like sum it up because like the stereotypes I personally find aren't true because we're not always outgoing. We're not always loud. Yes, I love to dance, and yes, I love to talk. So some of the time, like those things are going to be true for me some of the time. I can't deny it. A lot of the time when I try to tell people like, oh, I can be quiet, they're like, what? Really? But it just depends on like the people and how much I talk to them. Yeah, because I don't know. I'm moody with talking. Like sometimes I really don't talk very much. And also the compatibility, because if someone's like not really getting you, you don't really want to talk to them because they're not going to understand what you're saying, right? So my advice would just be to talk to a lot of people, see if you have a comfort level there, see if you feel like they're criticizing you or if they're like just neutrally interested in what you're saying. If so, there's a chance that they might be your best match. And of course, you can look for a person who's using a lot of new ideas and a lot of like feeling. But it's not going to be conclusive, right? Because it could be like an ENFJ also. Confusing your best and worst type is something that used to happen to me a lot, especially when I was first learning about this stuff because they look similar on the outside, like ENFPs, ENFJs, we like people, we like parties, we like going out, we like the arts, we like talking to people, but there are those differences too. Like ENFJs are a lot more expressive emotionally than we are, and they're also structured. So they're going to want to make a plan and have it really like a detailed plan. I noticed my ENFJ friend will plan stuff that like I don't think is necessary. Like I do believe in planning when it's necessary. Like if we're going to go to a movie, maybe we're going to want to get the tickets in advance if it's going to sell out. Okay, let's make a plan. That's cool. But she'll like always get a table. She'll reserve a table like anywhere she's going, whether it's just drinks, like drinks at a dive bar, and she'll call ahead and reserve a table. And I'm like, why? It's just not needed. Like we can just like pull up some chairs to the bar. Like it's fine. And to me, it's like an unnecessary, stressful headache, basically, because then what if someone doesn't show up and then they're like, oh, you had a table for 7, and then do people have to order food because you're reserving a table? So then the wait staff is going to expect tips from dinner, not just from drinks, and et cetera, et cetera. So like I prefer whenever possible to keep things just like open ended, like let's just see when we get there, unless it's like we have to plan it, we have to organize it, like if we're going to go to brunch at a restaurant that usually has a 4-hour wait, yeah, I'm gonna get a reservation 100%. I don't want to wait 4 hours. But if it's like we're going to go to the diner that always has open seats, like I'm not going to reserve a table. Especially because what if we wake up that day and don't feel like going, right? That's the ENFP way to do things. The ENFJ is going to want to reserve it, even if it's not really necessary, just because they like to have plans made. ENFPs also are a little bit more just wacky than ENFJs. ENFJs, even though it's only one letter apart, they're very community focused in that they want to do what is conventional most of the time. They want to fit themselves into that conventional structure. They like hierarchy in socionics. So they're going to like the corporate job much more than the ENFP will. Of course, there are ENFPs with corporate jobs. I've met, quite a few. I've met ENFP engineers and salespeople and consultants and, typical corporate jobs where you have to wear a suit and all that. ENFPs can do these things, but they will bring their own goofiness to it, and that goofiness is going to come out at some point. Like we can try to restrain it, but it's going to come out. I also like to look a lot at just facial expressions. ENFPs tend to like have similar facial expressions, so that's something that you can kind of like look at as well. Yeah, but I'd say like just talking to people if they're using a lot of new ideas is a clue. If they're really, really open-minded, that's a clue. ENFPs who are super open-minded, we like to hear the story, the unique story that somebody has. We don't want to just like judge them without knowing all the facts. So we see people as individuals. ENFJs, that type tends to see people more in terms of what group they belong to, and then they kind of categorize people in that way, whereas ENFPs tend to see each person as an individual. And it's not bad or good, this is just different ways of seeing people. So an ENFJ might be like, oh, you're an accountant, so then I know all these things about you because you're an accountant, you must be like this and that and the other thing. But an ENFP will be like, well, you're an accountant, but maybe none of those stereotypes apply to you. I want to get to know you as an individual. And I think that's the reason that we ask so many questions, because we're kind of starting from scratch with everybody that we meet. We don't bring a lot of like preconceived notions to the table unless that's like an ENFP who is a narcissist or judgmental, or they have something else going on. The type alone is very, very open-minded. So often ENFPs will have friends from like totally different walks of life, totally different backgrounds, like just people I have literally nothing in common with, and we can become great friends because that's not what I base my relationships on. It's based on that FI connection of like Do we care about each other as people? Can we understand one another? Like, are they, excuse me, are they a good person? All of these kind of things. Like, are they empathetic? That's what I base my relationships on. I want to know, like, what kind of adversity maybe they went through, what challenges they had. Like, we're really trying to understand the character that somebody has, whereas an ENFJ is more about, like, where that person fits in to the hierarchy of society. Um, and they're more about, like, kind of teamwork, and you do your role, I'll do my role, and then society will be good, and then we'll use the extroverted feeling to make it like yay and happy. So it's just a totally different like way to do things. One isn't bad or good, but that does, I think, distinguish a lot, because an ENFP is going to ask so many questions because they're so curious, and ENFJ will ask some questions, but they're just not as interested in getting to know that person's character on the inside. They're a little more interested in, like, what is that person doing in the world? What groups are they a member of? That kind of positioning is a little more of an ENFJ thing to be interested in. We do say some weird stuff sometimes. We make some weird jokes, like, and it's one way that I can tell if people are compatible with me is if they're accepting of me saying something kind of weird, or if they're going to immediately be like, well, that wasn't a typical thing to say. No, I don't know if I like you. Like, if they're going to judge me for saying something like outlandish, then yeah, this is not going to work, friend or whatever. Um, so you might see ENFPs, because when we're comfortable, that's the kind of thing that we say. Will just say outlandish things. Like, I mean, not offensive things, but just weird stuff. I can't think of an example of anything that I've said lately. It's hard because I don't really remember. I'm like, what did I do last night? How was I acting with that group of people? I don't know. I mean, we do talk to strangers sometimes a lot, in which case it's easy to get to know us. And then I mean, I used to be shy though. When I was younger, I wouldn't talk to anybody. So like, you can't go just off of that. Now I'm very comfortable talking with like pretty much anyone. Like, I like saying random things to random people. Usually compliments, but you never know. I'm just kidding. Like, I'm not going to offend random people, but like, if I'm in a public bathroom and a girl is like leaving, I might be like, oh, I really like your haircut or something. Like, I will say things just kind of, why not tell her she has a good haircut? She does, and she should know that. Like, that's kind of, I'm never going to see her again. What do I care? May as well say it. Um, so yeah, I don't know how, I guess kind of what it comes down to is you have to figure out how somebody thinks versus how they act. Because if you look just at how they act, you're going to end up finding a lot of ENFJs. Because ENFJs hang in a lot of the same places ENFPs do. Artsy stuff, dive bars. I mean, we go to nice places too, but a lot of ENFPs are not very uptight about like the ambiance and the, like, I like ambiance, but I'm totally fine going sort of wherever. Um, so it's kind of hard just looking from the outside in. But also just in conversation, I think it's easier to see because you kind of ask about their week and you'll notice the ENFP doesn't really have that many plans. Like, will purposefully not make a strict plan. Or it will be more of a vague plan. Like, oh yeah, this weekend I'm going to see some friends and like we'll probably go to a bar, get brunch or something. It'll be more like that, where an ENFJ will be like, oh, I have a brunch on Sunday. Yeah, we're going to go here and I've reserved a table and we're going to go to the museum after for like an hour. It's going to be much more structured. That's not to say ENFPs don't have plans, because like, yes, I do make plans like when it's necessary. Like I said, if there's a brunch that like has a 4-hour wait, I'll make a reservation. But if I could avoid it, like if I could never make a reservation again and I could just go and there would be a table, cool. ENFJs like making the reservation. Like they like having the plan and the structure. Um, and yeah, just look for someone who's very open-minded and has friends from different walks of life and is willing to talk to people, just willing to talk to kind of anybody. Um, like, oh, this person wandered over into our group. We don't know them. The ENFP will probably be like, oh, cool, person to talk to. So we're pretty like open to different types of people. Like for me, someone does not have to have like the same, beliefs or politics or religion or any of that. Even if I disagree with them, I'm not gonna not be friends with someone based on their beliefs. Again, narcissists, different case. They will usually go into a rage if someone doesn't believe the same things as them. So that's going to be a case by case thing for how mentally healthy that person is. But yeah, like looking back, I remember I would even go to events with people, like with friends, they would invite me to something, and it was an event that I really shouldn't have been there because I wasn't in that group. So but that friend or whatever would be like, oh, I really want you to go, or like I need someone to go with or whatever. So I've been to like Jewish events even though I'm not Jewish. I've been to like Republican events even though I'm not Republican. um, I've been to lots of just things like that. I've dated people that didn't speak English, for example, like just weird stuff like that maybe other types would be less likely to do. ENFPs are kind of like, well, if I think someone's cool and like we have some kind of connection, friend or otherwise, why not? Are we really that different? We kind of see that common thread, I think. So if you're talking to someone and they seem to have friends from all different types of people that aren't just the same as them, that's another way. So I don't know. I don't know how helpful that was. You guys tell me if that was helpful, because I don't want to just say the stereotypical things, because like I have kind of a weird sense of fashion, but I know plenty of ENFPs that have very, very normal fashion and they don't wear anything weird at all. Um, but generally, sometimes you will see ENFPs wearing like maybe one thing that's a little bit weird. But yeah, it's like I know enough corporate ENFPs also that kind of know that they can't get away with that at work, so they just don't buy it in the first place. So yeah, I think that might be more to do with how your work is. And ENFPs, I think a lot of the time we do like working for ourselves because we like having tons of freedom. But like I said, like I work for myself, but lots of ENFPs don't. So when I had more normal jobs, I did dress really, really normal. Like I didn't really buy anything weird. So, yeah, just kind of throwing out some random stuff, and hopefully that was helpful. You guys let me know. Thanks for watching.